She was insulted, humiliated, treated like a monster, taken to freak shows like her life meant nothing. Her name was Eugenia Martínez Vallejo. She wasn't just a girl, but she was an innocent child who wanted to have a normal life like every other child, but she was denied that all because of how she looked. Who humiliated Eugenia? Charles II of Spain, born November 6, 1661, and became king in 1665 at the tender young age of 4, the royal house of Habsburg was one of the most powerful dynasties of medieval and Renaissance Europe. It reigned over much of Europe for centuries, and a lesson in genetic inheritance may explain their demise. Here is the connection of Charles Habsburg to Eugenia. Eugenia Martínez Vallejo was born in the small village of Merindad de Montija, Burgos, Spain in 1674, to parents Antonia de la Bodega and José Martinez Vallejo. Her parents were poor. One Sunday morning her mother gave birth to her in a church after her water broke during Mass. She obviously had no time to go home because labor caught her at that exact time. A long time it was so unusual for mothers to give birth in church, thus it was believed that her being born in church was a sign she will have a great future. Eugenia was born as a healthy baby, very strong with a good appetite. Her parents didn't think they had something to worry about because in the 16th and 27th century, approximately 2% of all live births in England at this time would die in the first day of life, especially in rural areas, but Eugenia seemed healthy. However, as she grew older it all changed. She started to grow bigger than a normal child, and this was worrying to her parents. They decided to seek medical help. The doctor put her on a strict diet, but still nothing changed. She kept on growing bigger. By the time the parents knew it, the news had spread all over the country. This is where the bullying started from. By the time she was 1 year old, she had already reached a weight of 25 kilograms. At the age of 6, Eugenia already weighed 70 kilograms, 155 pounds. News of her condition had spread to Madrid, and it was at this age that she was summoned there to the court of Spanish Regent Charles II in 1680. Eugenia Martínez became infamous in Spain at a very young age due to her size and weight. She was ridiculed, disgraced, and insulted by her neighbors, which led to the family hiding her away from people so that no one could see or laugh at her, and to protect her mental health. She was nicknamed La Monstrua, which means the monster, and unfortunately she had to endure abuse almost her whole life. Life became even worse for Eugenia because the whole king of Spain, Charles II, made fun of her. He was intrigued by this mysteriously large girl so much that he had 2 portraits taken of her, one in which she was naked. They were titled The Monster Dress and The Monster Nude. Eugenia was brought at the age of 6 to the royal court in Madrid of Charles II, who ordered the works by sending a messenger to get the girl. The royal tailor didn't take long to make Eugenia a dress, as was required to be presented before the king. It seemed like the king invited Eugenia into the palace out of goodwill and generosity, but there was a darker reason for this. There, she was exhibited because of her obesity as a curiosity or a freak. The dehumanizing term was often used to refer to people with disabilities. As a matter of fact, it was common practice for aristocrats to take advantage of the disabled for their own amusement by exhibiting them as mere objects. She was exhibited at parties in the palace too. Charles II was incredibly fond of hermaphrodites, conjoined twins, and other physical oddities. Eugenia was a natural fit for exhibition within his palace, thus was used by the king for exhibitions. Why did Eugenia grow that fat? A few years later, when technology advanced, she was said to have suffered from Prader-Willi syndrome, the genetic disorder which usually appears in childhood, accompanied by various physical complications. One of those symptoms is obesity and diabetes type 2, as those affected often feel constant hunger, but we can't be 100% certain it was the cause of her appearance. Unfortunately, the appropriate medical treatments for Eugenia's condition were not known in the 17th century. Health issues common to Prader-Willi syndrome most likely contributed to her death at the young age. As an infant, Eugenia was always hungry and gained weight rapidly. The beauty standards of the time favored heavier frames on women, considering them beautiful and a sign of good fortune. But Eugenia grew abnormally fat. What and how did Eugenia look like? Juan Cabezas described the young girl saying, "Eugenia was pale, she was white and not very unpleasant in the face, although she is very big. Her head, face, and neck and other features are the size of 2 men's heads. Her stomach is as huge as that of the world's oldest woman about to give birth. The thighs are so thick and full of flesh that they become confused and make her shameful nature imperceptible to the eye. And they conceal from sight her private parts. The legs are little less than the thigh of a man. They are so full of threads and the thighs that fall one over the other with astonishing monstrosity, and although the feet are, in proportion to the building of flesh they support, they are almost like those of a man, however, moves and walks with work, due to the excessive size of her body. While it could be argued that Eugenia's quality of life improved when she joined the royal court, especially considering her impoverished beginnings, the young girl was being exploited. Although contemporary accounts mention that Eugenia was rather popular with visitors, who admired her beautiful face and enjoyed her pleasant personality, she was commonly referred to as La Monstrua, the monster, and was not paid a wage for her time entertaining in court. The 2 portraits by Carreño are currently held by the Museo del Prado in Madrid. In 1997, a sculpture by Amado González Javia, also known as Favela, was commissioned for the city of Aviles. He created a bronze statue of Vallejo, which stands on Calle Carreño Miranda and is popular with tourists. The sculpture is one of the most popular in Aviles, with modern visitors still fascinated by Eugenia Martínez Vallejo's size and uncommon beauty. Her image has captured historians as well. The paintings and sculpture of Eugenia have been referenced in scholarly works examining the history of Prader-Willi and other congenital disorders. Eugenia Martínez Vallejo died in 1699 around the age of 24. She lived her whole life in the court following being taken in when she was 6. Likely she wasn't kept on a regular basis as there are no records of her financial accommodation, but it's nice to think she might have been paid those days she worked there. But certainly all her needs were covered in the palace. We cannot be certain whether Eugenia enjoyed her stay in the place. The location of her remains and the exact cause of death are unknown, though it was speculated that it had to do with the condition she suffered from. May she rest in peace.